Welcome and welcome back. I'm B. Today I'm ranking the Final Destination movies from worst to best. I recently reviewed Final Destination Bloodlines, so be sure to check that video out. There will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen these movies, proceed with caution. And as always, feel free to drop your own ranking in the comments. Alright, let's get into it. Coming in at number 6 is Final Destination 4, The Final Destination. I'm sure this is no surprise that this one is coming in last place. So in Final Destination 4, it follows Nick, who has a vision of a deadly crash at a racetrack and manages to get a few people out just in time. But of course, that comes back around with a vengeance. So this one just didn't work for me. The 3D effects were awful, and I didn't care about most of the characters. Maybe I cared about the security guard a little bit, but that's about it. The cast felt flat, and they weirdly ramped up the racism in this one, which made it more uncomfortable than entertaining. Now, the one scene that I did like in this movie was the movie theater scene where things are going to catch on fire, but Nick stops everything. But overall, this entry is easily forgettable and lands at the bottom of my list. Coming in at number 5 is Final Destination 5. This time we follow Sam, who has a vision of a massive suspension bridge collapse during a company retreat. He gets a few co-workers, including his girlfriend Molly and friend Peter, off the bridge before it collapses. It's definitely better than movie 4. The characters aren't amazing, but the pacing is decent and there's a solid amount of tension. The 3D effects are still hit or miss, but what really saved this movie is the twist at the end, when it ties directly into the events of the first movie. That genuinely surprised me the first time I saw it. They also dropped some hints throughout the movie, which made the rewatch more fun. Tony Todd is back too. Even with a brief appearance, he leaves an impact. Alright, let me just say before I go into number 4, Final Destination Bloodlines and Final Destination 3 are basically tied for me. I went back and forth on which one to rank higher, and honestly, their spots are interchangeable. I just picked one for the sake of this list. So coming in at number 4 is Final Destination 3. This one centers around Wendy, a high school student who has a vision of a roller coaster accident during senior night. She freaks out, gets some people off the ride, and then of course the ride crashes. So this movie leans into the chaotic energy in a fun way. The deaths are memorable, especially the tanning bed scene, which is still one of the most talked about in the franchise. Every time I hear the song Love Roller Coaster, I think about that scene in the movie. And the use of photos as clues to the upcoming deaths added a cool twist to the formula. I also really like the subway premonition with Wendy, her sister, and Kevin. And also, while Tony Todd doesn't appear on screen, we do get his voice as the theme park ride announcer, which was a nice little bonus. Coming in at number 3 is Final Destination Bloodlines. This one follows Stephanie, a college student who's plagued by recurring nightmares. She returns home to investigate, and it turns out that the dreams are connected to a premonition her grandmother Iris had years ago about a deadly accident at the Skyview restaurant. I really enjoyed this one. The opening sequence pulled me in right away, and I thought the storyline was strong throughout. The way they tied it back to the original events without forcing it was a nice touch. There were callbacks to earlier films, which longtime fans will definitely appreciate, and I talk about that in my video. And they kept the franchise's signature over-the-top, elaborate deaths. One death in particular, Eric's death with the MRI, had me pause for a second. It was one of the best deaths, I think, in the franchise. And then we see Tony Todd, and I was glad to see him again. Hearing his final words were sad, but he left a lasting impression like he always does. He's an icon, and this felt like a proper farewell. Overall, Bloodlines felt like a solid and satisfying addition to the franchise. It felt like a continuation done with care. Coming in at number 2 is Final Destination 2. This is the one that traumatized a whole generation with that log truck pileup. This one follows Kimberly, who has a vision of a massive highway pileup while driving with her friends. She blocks the on-ramp just in case, saving a group of strangers, but of course, death isn't done. I like that Final Destination 2 does connect back to the first film. The twist that these people only survived because the Flight 180 passengers cheated death. I think that it made the movie more cohesive. I know a lot of people didn't like that aspect, but I thought it was fine. The movie introduces the new life interrupts death's design theory, which gets a little messy, but it didn't ruin the movie for me. And again, I cannot talk about how much that premonition with the log truck really just traumatized all of us. I know that most of us, when we're driving, we are not driving behind a truck that has logs. Also, Clear Rivers returns from the first movie, and T.C. Carson joins the cast too. Shout out to Kyle Barker. Tony Todd shows up again with more cryptic warnings. My only complaint is how they did Clear. She deserved a better ending. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie on rewatch, and that is why it is my number 2. And finally, number 1 goes to the original Final Destination. This one follows Alex, a high school student who has a vision that the plane he's about to board is going to explode. He gets kicked off with a group of classmates, including Claire, and sure enough, the plane goes down right after takeoff. This one still holds up. It's a slower pace than the others, but it works. It builds dread and tension in a way that feels grounded, and that plane scene still gives me anxiety. Devon Sawa did a great job as Alex, and I actually cared about him and Claire. Miss Luton's death is the one I always remember. It's chaotic, it's dramatic, and everything this series is known for. Tony Todd makes his first appearance as William Bloodworth, and even with just one scene, he's instantly iconic in this movie. It's not a perfect movie, but it laid out the foundation for everything that followed. For me, it's still the best in the franchise. So that's my ranking of the Final Destination movies. Let me know how you'd rank the series. Drop your list in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more horror, sci-fi, and thriller content.